Pretty sure I would have called you crazy if you told me back in 2001 that there were going to be 7 Fast and the Furious sequels and the last 4 were going to be the good ones. But here we are, so let's talk about it. So in the 8th movie in the Fast and Furious franchise, Dom, played by Vin Diesel, must turn against his family and his crew because of the influence of new villain played by Charlize Theron. Here she plays a super hacker whose evil scheme sounds like it's straight out of one of the Pierce Brosnan James Bond movies, but really the big scheme isn't what we're here to see. We're here to see an enormous cast of fun characters going on a wacky and wild adventure, and that's what this movie delivers in spades. Now before I go into my full review, there's 3 things that you need to know before you watch this movie. The first is that this movie assumes that you've seen and remembered the last 3 or so Fast and Furious movies. There's a lot of assumptions about your knowledge of characters that they just kind of casually mention, relationships to characters to understand who people are. It's not really spelled out in this movie. It assumes you've seen the previous movies. The second thing you need to understand about this movie, it is pure and total schlock. It just throws quips, jokes, action sequences, insane ideas at you to try and entertain you any cheap way possible, and it works for the most part. It's very much like the Taco Bell of entertainment. It's not good, but it sure is enjoyable, and I want to eat it all the time. Third, you need to understand that this is soap opera for men. There's all kinds of reveals, twists, turns, things tying things together, revelations about who's related to who's dead and who's not, and it only makes sense if you watch it in a soap opera sort of way. For me, I didn't care at all about the plot holes, the continuity issues, the lack of logic, because the movie provided the entertainment that I went to go see. However, if you're someone that will fixate on the plot holes, the issues, the lack of logic, this movie might not be for you. With that said, before I go into my full review, I'll just throw it to you in the comment section. Was this movie insanely fun or insanely dumb? You tell me in the comment section. With that said, let's talk about the good. When I go to a Fast and Furious movie, I want to see a great, fun, charismatic cast and a bunch of insane action sequences, and that is exactly what this movie delivers. Legitimately, I thought about trying to list off the cast earlier, but it's so long it would take me way too many takes to get it right, and so I skipped over it. But the cast here is insanely large, and they're all so much fun. They're all so charismatic. Even like new characters like Scott Eastwood's character, who's brought in as kind of like the punching bag in Kurt Russell's team that everybody picks on. He's so funny in this movie, and they pick on him, and it's just such great setups for them to have a guy to pick on. Kurt Russell is incredibly fun and charismatic as you'd expect him to be. There's incredible rapport back and forth between The Rock and Jason Statham. All the characters really have great back and forth rapport with each other on the crew side of things, and so it's so much fun. And then Charlize Theron, while she does look like an actual Barbie in this movie because her face can't move because it seems to be injected with so much Botox and her skin has been stretched so much on her face that she can't move it. But she's giving a very fun, villainous performance that doesn't really come off too campy. It just comes off, I don't know, somehow it just works in that perfect spot of cold and calculated, menacing, terrifying, still kind of over the top, but not too far over the top. And so, great cast of characters. The next thing you come to see is the insane action sequences, and once again, they deliver here of coming up with just bizarre things that on paper just sound ludicrous, because they are, and in the movie, they're ludicrous, but they're so much fun to see, and they're played with just such bravado and confidence of just like boldly going in, and we're gonna have a wrecking ball smash through this high-speed chase. We're gonna have a scene in New York City where it's raining cars. We're gonna have a high-speed chase with a submarine with cars on ice. We're gonna have The Rock and Jason Statham have a gravity-defying fights with people in a prison cell. Like, you know, that's what the movie is, and it does it with so much fun that you just buy into it. The big reason that the action in this movie is so much fun is because you can see what's happening. Now, like, I'm not going to say that these are going to be the best stunts of the year, the best fights of the year, but they're shot very well, and so they provide a very fun environment where you're seeing insane things happen where you can see what's happening. There's wide shots. It's not cut too fast where you're like disoriented and confused. There's no shaky cam. It's just well shot action of insane fun things happening with big explosions, with charismatic actors and characters making all of this happen, and so it just makes for a very fun adventure to go on with this cast of characters. For me, that's what I go to see with these movies, and it provided it in spades. Therefore, I was highly entertained and liked this movie a good bit. However, if you need more than that, you might have some issues with this movie, so let's talk about the bad. The thing with this series over the last few movies is that it's teetered that line between insanely dumb and insanely fun, and this is probably going to be the movie where a lot of people go, they went too far, they crossed the line, this is just stupid, and it makes absolutely no sense. Like, as I was watching the movie, especially at the beginning, I was even kind of pulled out a little bit because there's just so little sense and continuity to it, and they would just like throw a line of dialogue in to basically cheat the continuity error, and they just have someone say some technical mumbo jumbo to explain why they're able to do something, to jump over the logical issue in your head where you're like, that doesn't make any sense, and then someone would go, just say some stupid line and they'd move on past it. Another issue I had with the movie is that it's pretty predictable with the twists and the reveals. They establish a theme very early in the movie and you can start putting the pieces together very quickly. Another issue with the movie is because family is kind of the key theme of this franchise, and that kind of Vin Diesel's rapport with the crew and really the rapport of all the crew is what makes these movies work. And so the central idea of taking our lead character and putting him on the other guy's team creates an interesting twist that makes the movie naturally interesting. But at the same time, it breaks some of that family dynamic, and some of the emotional connection gets lost a little bit by putting him over here, and you lose something in the rapport of the movie. But really, my personal biggest issue with the movie is a little bit past halfway in the movie. It goes into a pretty dark direction for about 10 minutes where there's some twists, reveals, things that happen. And the problem is because the way these movies work is with this schlocky entertainment fun value where you can you just ignore the consequences of what they're doing, you ignore the logic of things, and then it goes for about 10 minutes in a dark direction where you face the consequences of some things and some bad things happen, and it really pulled me out. It was like, ooh, this doesn't feel like this meshes well with the way it played out, the context it played out. This scene in particular is too dark for the movie that I'm watching right now. With all that said, this movie was very entertaining for me, but it's a little bit tricky to rate a movie that's so boldly stupid and ignores logic, but is so entertaining. So when I rate a movie, basically I consider the quality of it, which you can debate the quality of this movie, the ambition of the movie, it's got some ambitions to it, and the watchability and entertainment value of the movie. This one was incredibly entertaining for me. I'd find it incredibly rewatchable. I'd put it on the level of like a movie like Arnold Schwarzenegger's Commando. That's the type of movie this is to me. I'm going to give this a 7.9 out of 10. I went back and forth on how to rate it, but at the end of the day, I really had a good time with it. I would rewatch it for what I wanted this movie to deliver. It delivered it to me. It's a lot like a Taco Bell meal. Like I've said many times, there's no depth to it. I don't want to think about what I'm eating. I don't want to know what's in I'm eating, but it's very enjoyable at the time, and that's what this movie is. It's a good, fun ride. To give you a second perspective on it, I took my wife. She said I loved it, and that's the most fun I've had at the movies in a long time. If I'm being honest, I would highly recommend you, if you're going to go see this movie, go see it in a packed theater. See it with a room full of that energy of people pumped to see this movie. It'll be an enormously fun time at the theater, though it is awfully stupid. And also, if I'm being honest though, if you didn't like the last few movies, if you're afraid it's getting too stupid, you can skip this one. It's probably too stupid for you. But if you enjoy that kind of thing, go see it as soon as possible while there's a ton of people in the theater. But that's just my opinion. How about you? What did you think about The Fate of the Furious? Is it incredibly stupid, or is it incredibly fun? Or did you think like I did, it's incredibly stupid, and that's kind of why it's incredibly fun? Tell me your thoughts in the comments section down below. I don't want to just talk about The Fast and the Furious. I want to talk about The Fast and the Furious with you. With that said, coming up later today or tomorrow, I'm going to have my ranking of all 8 Fast and the Furious movies come out. So depending if I remember to, I might put a card up there to remind you to go check that out. But I'm going to rank all of them, talk about all of them, give my thoughts on all of them. I'd love it if you'd chime in, give your ranking, your thoughts, your reviews of each of them. Let's have a great conversation about these movies, because somehow this franchise I did not care about at all for the first 3 or 4 movies became one of my favorite blockbuster summer franchises because it's just so much fun. With that said, if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews, talk about movie news, rankings, trailer reactions. I also got a movie trivia show that I started up recently. It's tons of fun where other YouTubers and me compete to figure out who is the master of movie trivia. Well, that said, I don't want to just talk about movies. I want to talk about movies with you. So please join me in the comment section, click that subscribe button, and thank you for watching.